Thank you for listening to the Cosmetics Business Podcast. For early access to episodes, exclusive beauty news stories, analysis, trend reports, and award-winning magazines, subscribe to cosmeticsbusiness.com. That's cosmeticsbusiness.com.
Hello and welcome to a bonus episode of the Cosmetics Business Podcast. In this special edition, we thought we'd introduce the team so you get to know us a bit better and we share what we've been up to, how we ended up in cosmetics business and its sister title Pure Beauty, and it's a bit more transparency, I guess, between us journalists and you, the listener, and our readers. Julia, as the person who's been at cosmetics business the longest, tell us about yourself.
Well, yeah, I mean, you say the longest. It's
Sorry.
It's been 84 years. No, it feels like that. No, it's been about 15 years. My maths is terrible, but I joined in 2008, so longer than that, I guess.
Did you come straight from uni?
I did not know. So I did English language and literature at Leeds University, which was fantastic. And I did lots of interesting things like write on Harry Potter. That was one of the things we got to study, which was fantastic. But when I left with a degree, I found out that there wasn't much of a call for people who knew how to dissect the role of the male member in medieval literature, for example. So indeed, that was another one I wrote about. I had a great time at uni. But yeah, so I ended up graduating and then doing, I guess, what you would call the usual cycle back then of working, temping for a little bit, to pay my way through, then subsequently 2 weeks of internships at various different publications.
Where did you do publications?
So many. So do you remember Star?
Yes.
Yeah. They were a fantastic team there. Elle was wonderful.
Amanda's looking very happy about them.
Yeah. More magazine, the one I grew up with, that was very exciting. Yep. And then on the business side, Retail Jeweler, and this is terrible. This is my memory for you, but it was either Media Week or Advertising Week, and I can't remember which, but it was based in Hammersmith. And so it was quite a rounded, a well-rounded internship collection, as you were. And then after that, I decided, yes, this is really something that I want to pursue and do. So I wanted the right qualification. And I joined a course based in Mornington Crescent, which was via journalism.com, journalism.co.uk. And it's accredited by the Periodicals Training Council, and it was a crash course. So it was about 3 months, and it was every day, including weekends. So it was a beast, but it was very interesting. Although I have to admit, it was very different back then. I don't know whether I think most of the focus was literally on the magazines itself rather than on, for example, things like this, which is why when you put a microphone in front of me, I do burble a bit. But and after that, I applied to all different kinds of magazines. And I'll be very honest, I'd have happily written about anything, mining, milk production. But I was really lucky. I ended up kind of falling into cosmetics under the wonderful Claire Henderson at Soap, Perfumery and Cosmetics, which was the precursor to cosmetics business. So that was how I got into the industry, and I love it. And actually, one of my favorite things is the science side, which is, if you know me, it's such a joke because I once accidentally set a light to a clamp, which is 99% metal. So I am horrifically bad in the lab, but I do love the theory and all the innovation and all the progress. So yeah, that's part of the job I really love, to be honest.
I think you've redeemed yourself from that moment with your over a decade's experience of a cosmetic science journalist.
I'd like to think so, yes.
You wrote for Retail Jeweler?
I did.
They were the main competitor for Jewelry Focus when I was writing for that title.
Oh, I feel that's like a really good way to go into your experience, maybe there.
Yeah, I think I followed pretty standards. Went to journalism undergrad, and my first job out of uni was for a company called Mulberry Publications at the time, Mulberry Media, and they wrote about everything, anything you could think of. They had like really strong titles. There was Hotel Owner, Jewelry Focus, and Pet Gazette.
I bet that was great.
Pet Gazette was good fun. I ended up actually maintaining that as my main magazine, which I sort of flat plans, sent to the printers in the end. And it was great coming up with like animal puns is something I kind of miss nowadays.
Why did I do the pet care article last year? Why didn't I give that one to you if I'd known that background?
But yeah, they also had a funeral B2B magazine, Funeral Service Times, which I would write articles for as well.
Who were the advertisers in that?
The ads were like embalming fluids and hearses and that kind of thing, which was it was strong. I think it's still going. I haven't actually checked in a while, but it has a very strong fan base.
I mean, it's never going to be stopping necessarily, right? So this is terrible. I shouldn't be laughing this much. It's very serious.
Which was I didn't. So I managed Pet Gazette, and my colleague Lewis Catchpole, who is still a really dear friend, he used to handle that side, Funeral Service Times. But before that we would sort of contribute together. And yeah, it was I learned so much. And the idea with Mulberry is that there was lots of titles. So it was like a manufacturing one they tried to launch, didn't take off, and a farming one as well. And yeah, I sort of really got like a huge insight into loads of industries, which I think was probably quite helpful, especially eventually sort of moving into beauty, the luxury side of the world. But I worked there for maybe 3 years, and then I thought I want to go back and study.
It certainly taught you how to multitask.
Yeah, and to be quite quick in sort of picking new sectors up and sort of immersing yourselves. And actually...
Yeah, people say good B2B journalists can almost write about anything. Yeah. And I think, you're proof of that, really. It's many different strings to your bow.
It was good because you learnt a lot. And also, it's finding the fun and interests, because on the surface level, you think, hotels. But actually speaking with hoteliers, learning about the industry and how much passion goes into like running hotels. Like, I love that side of things. And I think I've brought that in pretty much everywhere I've written for, especially beauty, because it's absolutely lovely characters in this industry. But then I wanted to get a bit more education. So I went and did a master's at Brunel University for international journalism, which was a load of fun. And I wish it lasted forever. It was just such a nice group of people. From that, we founded the Hillingdon Herald, which was a proper newspaper for our borough. And it was local news reporting. And that was a lot of fun. And really immersing myself in the borough and, actually seeing like a physical newspaper nowadays. It's just, I'm such a dinosaur in any case. It was so nice to be a part of that. And worked there after I graduated, sort of full time. But I needed money. I'm sure we all needed money.
We've all been there.
And I really, I was 26 or 27, and I'm still living with my parents, and I was like, okay, I need to make a move, need to move out. And I got this mystery email from my alumni, like Brunel's alumni. It was like, do you want this really cool, mysterious job that probably pays well? And I was like, I think so. And it wasn't even advertised as cosmetics business at first.
It sounds like it's for a magician's magazine.
Yeah, it could have been anything, really. I actually had to do some digging because there was like a couple of keywords like beauty and then London Bridge, like a swanky office in London Bridge. I just Googled like those things together and I was like, HPCi Media, cosmetics business, it's probably this.
Good investigative roots there. And
it was... in all honesty, I never really saw myself writing about the beauty industry. And I guess there were concerns like, am I a right fit for this? Am I a match for this? But you guys seem to like me. So I seem to be doing something right, these past few years.
I was going to say, how many years has it been now?
It'll be 2 years, May 4th.
Crazy.
And yeah, actually of all the industries I've written about so far, it's just non-stop. There is never a moment where something's not happening, big or small.
You're always learning.
Yeah.
Always learning because it's always changing.
It's so intersectional, and everything I've written about before, it kind of leads into beauty, like, I don't know, hotels and the retail side of things and the luxury and stuff like AI and technology and video games as well. It's just, it's a fascinating field. And I think the greatest thing about working for cosmetics business is that my skin's never been better. So I don't know what's going to happen to me in however many years when I eventually leave or whatever happens. I'm just going to turn into like an old man instantly, So yeah, that's been my journey in a nutshell. So yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
So yeah, I think common theme, I kind of fell into beauty. I always knew I wanted to write. I used to make magazines for my family and I'd make them read it, just putting busted on the cover and that.
Can I ask? Oh yeah, busted.
Yeah, busted, just making all the Pauley tribe read. But no, I studied media and history as a joint BA at Roehampton because I wanted to do history because I thought to understand what's going on in the present and the future, you need to have like a good grasp of the past. But it was quite difficult to find a university that did both. So I did that and then I interned, obviously, as everyone does. I went to Moore
Yes,
and Star
Mockery.
and Grand Designs and Heat
Fantastic.
and a local paper and a PR agency. I mean, the list could go on. And then I finally stumbled across a job at Practical Parenting as a junior writer. So I started off in the parenting industry. And after about a year of being there, the company got bought out by Immediate Media and they owned 5 other parenting titles. So then I got moved into a mega hub of like journalists on 6 different parenting titles, ranging from affordable to like high-end luxury for toddlers and what have you. And I learned a lot there. I learned how to put a pram down with one hand. I learned how to wean. I mean, it was a great experience, a great team. I have such fond memories there. And then I left there and I went to a business charity and I called the CQI and I worked on their title called Quality World. And I basically learned about quality processes at lots of different places. So I went everywhere from KFC's kitchen to Sony's tech warehouse to Lush's factory in Poole and learned how they created things. And then just by accident, my friend was working on Scratch magazine at the time and she knew the editor of Professional Beauty and a job had come up there for a assistant editor to then be moved up to a deputy. And she was like, you should go for it. And I was like, okay. So I applied and the next thing I knew, I was working there and then nearly 7 years down, I stayed there, had a great time, learned so much about the professional side of the beauty industry, have so much respect for the clinicians, the therapists, the nail techs, the makeup artists, like everybody who works in it because it's such a skill set and it's so undervalued. But yes, at the same token, I was writing about trends, ingredients, business analysis. They had trade shows, so I had to host live panels, I had to present at awards, I had to host focus groups, you name it, we did it. It was great. I then, for some reason, because I also equally love food to beauty, I dipped out of beauty to join a food title, and I only stayed there for about 5 months before I joined cosmetics business.
Did you make some amazing food though whilst you were there?
Yeah, to be honest, it's probably for the best because it's just ridiculous how much alcohol and food gets sent to you to the point that you can't digest it quick enough. It's probably for the best, but it is a great industry. But I just love beauty. Like I used to do little bits of beauty when I was on the parenting titles for mums to be and new mums. And then, yeah, like I say, I went to a lot of beauty businesses when I worked at the business titles. And then Professional Beauty just gave me a real love for the industry. And then I joined cosmetics business about 1.5 years ago. And I'm still here.
And we're glad you are. I did an undergraduate degree in classics and archaeology. I was always a little geek when it came to ancient history. I'd spend my Saturday afternoons going to the studying myths. And so whilst I was doing that, I always knew I wanted to be a writer. So in my spare time, I would volunteer at the student newspaper. I would do local internships. This was at Kent. So the Thanet Times, and then I'm from the Midlands originally, so I did internships and things at Birmingham Mail, Solihull, all local newspapers. Had a year out to go back home, worked for a local media agency to save up and to apply to do a master's degree. Moved back down to London, went to City University. Oh my God, the toughest year of my life. People cried so much. They would put your work up on the wall and tear it apart. They'd drop you in random places of London and be like, here, get me an off diary story, write it, come back, edit within 2 hours. It was tough. So yeah, you really earned your stripes and it definitely thickens your skin. Recommend it to anyone who wants to study journalism, by the way.
It's miserable to do it.
Yeah, it does. But honestly, you come out of it and you get your first job and you're like, this is easy. This is so easy compared to what I was doing. Yeah, it's a tough issue academically. So whilst I was there, you have to do work experience at titles to get certain credits part of your master's degree. I did the Catholic Times. Where else did I do? I did the Catholic Times and I did a couple of others. And then I needed a job when I finished. I mean, living in London, away from home, I need to pay rent, I need to get a job quickly. But I'm very fortunate for the job I did get. It was a reporter, B2B, for Retail Express, which is a title for the FMCG market, specifically independent retailers / corner shop owners / convenience stores. So I was traveling up and around the UK visiting corner shops, writing profile on corner shops. So that was quite an interesting job. I also had to cover protests full of corner shop owners. So there was one I remember standing outside the Houses of Parliament. They were all wearing white face masks, all of them.
Well, like anonymous?
Yeah, it was really creepy.
Crikey.
And they were doing it because the government was about to introduce removing of branding on cigarettes. And so they were campaigning against that.
Mm.
Yeah. So because it was a B2B market newspaper, tobacco titles could advertise in it. And tobacco companies have nowhere to spend money on marketing apart from B2B titles. So they would do the most outlandish press events. It was very creepy, sat unwell with me unethically, so I had to read that company. There are still some amazing journalists there, though. And it really is a great title, but I just had to leave. So from there, I went to Scotland. I got a job in a company called Firecrest Films, which is a production company for Channel 4. I think they're owned by Channel 4 now. They do a lot of dispatches work, which is a TV show, investigative journalist TV show in the UK. I was an investigative journalist there for a series called Super Shoppers, which is all about retail, investigated prices, our consumers being outdone for their money, value of products, that kind of thing. One of the best days of my career, which is really random. I just spent it with Andrex puppies.
Oh my God, that would be the best day of my life.
Yeah, it was. So it was all for I'd never worked in TV before, so I didn't know how slow the process was, because in print and online, as you guys know, everything's speedy, needed it done yesterday. And whilst there's still that mentality, they spend a whole day getting a 30-second shot, and even less. So all day with Andrex puppies playing with
toilet
roll.
Did they sleep a lot?
They didn't, but they were just so happy and lively. It was adorable. And because the scene was this toilet roll with that had printed money on it, and they were playing with this. It was meant to be a parody of the Andrex puppy advert, which is a famous toilet brand here in the UK. So we did that. It was up in Scotland. It was in the winter. I couldn't really hack the weather, bit of a wimp. So moved back down to London, did some freelancing for a bit, realised I wasn't quite ready for that point in my life yet. So a job came up on Cosmetics Business as a reporter. So I joined there 7 years ago, and then I was made features editor and so on and so forth. And here I am. And it's amazing, been here 7 years, and there's so much innovation and trends in beauty, and you meet some really incredible people that the years do just fly by. So I can understand why people come to beauty and don't leave.
Like me.
So that's all for the bonus episode of the Cosmetics Business Podcast. I hope that gave you a flavour about who we are. If you have any questions for the team, feel free to get in touch with us on social media. We're on all of the normal platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and now TikTok. So make sure to follow us on there, and we'll see you soon. Bye.